Attorney Richard Schoenstein. He is also a legal analyst. Welcome back to you, Richard. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about each side's argument in this case, starting with the defense. How are they defending his actions that day?
Well, the defense is saying that Jordan Neely posed a threat on that train to the passengers and that some force was justified to restrain him. I think they're also saying that there was no intent to harm Jordan Neely, but simply to restrain him until the police got there. And more than that, they're taking a shot at an argument that there's not adequate proof that the chokehold was the cause of death. I think that's by far the weakest of the defense arguments. In fact, I'm not sure I would have made that argument if I was on the defense.
And before we get to the prosecution's argument, when it comes to the defense, how much does it bolster their case? His interview caught on camera moments after, I think it was even before he knew that Neely had died.
I think it's supportive of his case. It's the same, it's the same theme that he wasn't trying to harm. I don't think anybody on that jury probably thinks that the defendant was intentionally trying to kill Jordan Neely. I don't think anybody could listen to the evidence of this trial and come away with that conclusion or think he was even trying to do harm. The question is just, were his acts justified and were they reckless?
So the prosecution, what's the crux of their argument?
Well, the crux of the prosecution's argument is that Jordan Neely did not pose a threat, didn't need to be intervened, and if you could imagine that some force was justified, the amount of force that was applied was way over the top. There was no need for a chokehold. There was no need for an arm to go around his neck. There was no need to hold that hold for, I think, something like 6 minutes until the young man passed away. And so from the prosecution's point of view, this was unnecessary force. But even if you believe that some force was necessary, it was way too much.
So the jury has already come back at the judge and wants clarification over the definition of both of the charges. So one is second-degree manslaughter. The second is criminally negligent homicide. Why the need for these two charges, and describe for us the difference?
Well, sure. I'll put them in simple terms because we don't have that much time to break it down. But basically, the manslaughter charge is a recklessness charge, and the criminal negligence charge is a negligence charge. And it has to do with how much culpability you think the defendant has. If you think he was only negligent and his actions got away from him and he made a mistake, you might find him guilty of criminally negligent homicide, which is a maximum 4-year prison term. But if you think he was aggressive, recklessly so, knew or should have known that this might lead to death, then you can find him guilty of second-degree manslaughter and a 15-year prison term. And there could be a lot of difference of opinion in that jury room, ranging from not guilty at all to guilty of second-degree manslaughter. And one thing the jury is trying to do is figure out where on that spectrum this case comes out, and possibly even to make a bargain as to what their final verdict will be.
And just to point our viewers' attention to that graphic on the screen, the jury cannot convict Penny on both of these charges, so they do have to decide which one it is.
Right, that's right. They have to pick one. They have to either say guilty of second-degree murder, or not guilty and guilty of criminally negligent homicide, or not guilty of anything. Those are essentially their three choices.
And based on what you've seen, the evidence and the testimony in this case, which do you think, Richard, is most likely?
Well, based on what I've seen of the evidence and the testimony, I would have thought second-degree manslaughter would be the appropriate charge, but I have a feeling the jury is going to come in lower than that. I suspect they're going to come in at criminally negligent, or possibly they may not be able to reach a decision. It is a very divisive issue. There's a lot of difference of opinion, and there's 12 people in that room who have to agree on it. I'm not positive they're going to.
It's a tall task. Richard Schoenstein, as always, thank you, sir.